Hello everybody, AJ Ryzik here, and today here we are on my new daily driver elementary OS Loki. Now, I think those of you that watch my videos regularly, you know that I am a huge fan of GNOME's shell. So you are probably wondering, why is he on elementary OS? Well, let me back up a little bit. A few weeks ago, um, I installed a newer video card into my system, and not long after that, I was editing videos on Caden Live. Noticed that I was having issues with Caden Live, and it wasn't with the rendering. Rendering was fine. The issue was trying to, as I was editing, trying to watch, through the previews. Very bad stuttering. I mean, stuttering and slowness to the point that it was virtually unusable. And so I thought, well, maybe this is a Caden Live issue. So I went and installed OpenShot. Same issue on OpenShot. So since I was running Solus, I think, well, maybe it's something to do with their codecs, their video drivers for AMD graphics card. Didn't know, but whatever it was, I have to have a video editor on my system. My preference is Caden Live. I would have used OpenShot if OpenShot was working well for me, but like I said, both were virtually unusable. So on my testing partitions, I started looking at some other distros. Basically, anything that was Ubuntu based, it ran great. Caden Live, OpenShot, any of the video editors, it all ran great. And there were other distros as well, but I was looking at it, and at first I thought, well, let's just go with Ubuntu 17.10, being that GNOME shell, and the way that Ubuntu has really what their implementation of GNOME shell has been. Not exactly thrilled about it. Yeah, you can go to the terminal, enter a command that to get you the quote unquote vanilla GNOME shell. But unfortunately, I found that certain extensions that I enjoyed using did not play nice, and I think it's because of the ones that some of the extensions that Ubuntu had built for the system. Why they couldn't have just stuck with the already existing extensions, I don't know. But in any case, I got frustrated with that, so I thought, well, I haven't for a while. I haven't played around with Unity. Let's install Ubuntu 16.04. We'll run that for a while, and that lasted a couple of days. And Ubuntu Unity, the Unity desktop, it is not a bad workflow, but there's a few things that really irritate me. And at the very, very top of the list, everything is minor compared to this one, is those global menus. I so detest global menus. As far as I'm concerned, you should not be sticking a menu up in the panel. Hey, it's okay if you're on GNOME Shell, you got that one little drop down icon in the corner. That's not a big deal. But spreading the menu all the way across the panel, it drives me up the wall. Yes, I do realize that it saves on screen real estate, but even on a laptop, I do not like that. And the locally integrated menu thing, that's not any better, because now sometimes the menu is up in the title bar. Sometimes it's all the way up in the panel, depending on whether the application is maximized or not. So to me, that's even worse than the global menus. So I was kind of looking at, well, where do we go from here? And I saw on YouTube a couple of other YouTubers that had been running elementary. One of them was Matt Hartley over at Freedom Penguin, and he's using it as daily driver. And it's like, well, I haven't looked at elementary for a while. Let's give it a shot and move on from there. And for a long time, I have had this what ended up being a misconception of elementary as it is the distro for newbies. It is the distro for somebody that just wants to install it and go with what is installed by default, and that's it. And if you like to tweak your desktop, you're out of luck here. And if you customize it, everything's going to crash and burn on you. And while the target audience may be the new Linux user, the person that wants to just sit down and get stuff done and not mess around with the desktop, there's a lot of functionality here, and going for that, that purpose of wanting to get stuff done. Yeah, there's not a lot of space for tweaking, but my productivity has been great. Taking a little bit of time getting used to a different workflow. The workflow is different. I'm not going to say it's better or worse than GNOME Shell, but it is a different workflow. But not only is it very usable, once you learn it, you can be very efficient with it. So in this video, I'm going to look at stuff that I've really liked, stuff that either didn't like or need some more work, that sort of thing. So it's not going to be really a full review, just stuff that I'm going to point out. So let's start out by taking a look at the desktop. Now you can see that, yeah, it's a custom wallpaper that I put up. I am not using the stock icons, and in fact, let me drag over I got File Manager open here. You can see it's not a stock. It's not the stock theming. Let me go and open up our settings here, our system settings. By the way, as I'm going through here, there'll be stuff that I point out that I've added or changed. There will be a write-up on my blog, and I'll get that up as soon as possible, and it'll have instructions for how all the stuff that I do here or have done. There'll be instructions on how to do it in the blog post. Anyway, I added this little addition to the settings called elementary tweaks, and it gives you these options here. Just a few extra things that you can tweak. By default, you really can't change the appearance other than your wallpaper. So this allows you to go and change your theme settings. So you can see I went with the arc darker. Let me go back to the default just so you can see what it looks like. And elementary, there you go. So anyway, there's your default look, and you see I put the panel over on the side. I'd much rather have it over there, or not the panel, but the dock. Anyway. So looking at it, by default, it is not a bad looking desktop. It is a nice looking desktop. It's not my style though, which is why I went with what I did. So for the icons, I went with the Papyrus, and they've got one called ePapyrus, and it's specific for elementary, and it gives you all the icons that you're going to need for the elementary specific applications. And that's something that I ran into when I was trying out different icon themes, is that a lot of times because of the specific naming of various applications within elementary, there wasn't an icon for a particular application. You'd have to go in and manually specify what icon you want to use for that application. It's like, for example, their text editor is called Scratch. It wasn't matching up with anything, but under the ePapyrus, it does work well. Same thing with the GTK themes. A lot of them, they just don't play nice with Pantheon, um, which is the desktop environment that we're using here. Luckily, the whole series of Arc themes, they all play nice, so that is what I'm using. And there's others as well. It's just this is one that I found. It looks good, and it plays nice. Like I said, the default theming is not bad. It just really wasn't my style. Um, anyway, while we're on tweaks, I'll just kind of show some of the other stuff you can change. You can go and change your fonts, which you see I went with the Ubuntu fonts. They're a very readable font, which is why I always go with them. Animations, you can change your animation speeds. Under MISC, you can change your maximum volume here. And then just a few tweaks that you can do to a couple of the applications. One of the things that I did, I don't like single click opening on my file manager. I want to double click to open a file. So I turned off single click. I do have it set up so it'll restore tabs, which is cool, so that when you go and you open up your file manager, it's going to restore tabs. It's going to go basically wherever you were when you shut down the file manager. That's where it's going to pick up. So I really like that. And you can play around with the date format a little bit. On your application launcher, which is up here in the corner, you can change the layout. You can show the category view by default, or if you've got that switched off, you'll just get, all applications. I think that ends up being alphabetical. You got a nice search, so you start searching for LibreOffice, and it'll pull that kind of stuff up. So it's a pretty nice launcher. And keyboard launching, that's generally the way that I like to launch stuff. Although you can pin stuff to the dock and go that route. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, Cerebra, whatever. Anyway, these are applications that if that application crashes, it's going to force it back open for you. So I really like that. So Flank will always be running for you, and Wing Panel, which is the panel up here at the top, it's always going to run for you too. So I like that. Some tweaks for the panel. Same thing for the video. Anyway, while we're talking about the tweaks, I will say that the elementary team, I wouldn't say that they discourage you to add PPAs, but they haven't made it easy for you. There's a couple of packages, or actually a package, that you have to add so that you'll be able to add other PPAs. Of course, as time goes on, and snap packages are becoming more and more of a thing, the need for the PPAs is going to eventually dwindle down and disappear, maybe go away completely. But at least for the time being, I like being able to add PPAs. Generally, you want to limit the number that you're adding, just because it can, if you get too many, it can play havoc with your system. But sometimes you need to do it to get the workflow done, that whatever your work is. While we're in settings, let's take a look at a few of the things. Some of the stuff that I really like in here is how easy they have made it for configuring certain things, and practical settings, and making it easy for the average person to understand. Like under notifications. Now, right now, I've got it set for Do Not Disturb. Really nice for when, in my case, when I'm shooting this video. But if you are, you got a conference call, or whatever, you don't want to be bothered by notifications. You don't want the disturbance of either the audible or the visual notification. You can turn them off, and then you can go through the list here. I'll probably have to turn them back on so that I can cruise through there. But you can go through there and you can specify, if you don't want audible notifications on certain things, you can get rid of those, or you get the idea. You got different settings for the various applications. So very simple, easy to work with. I like it. What other stuff? I mean, under applications, setting up your default applications, easy to do. Startups, very easy to go and add ones. And if there is something that for whatever reason it's not showing up in the list of things that you can add to a startup, if you know a custom command that you want at startup, you can go and add that as well, which is what I did right here. What other ones were there? Oh, the parental controls. This was something I really liked. I added another account on this computer just so that I could kind of demonstrate this. Let's say that this is a this is a laptop for your kids. You can go and well, you got to unlock it first. You can go and make it so that you can limit their computer use from certain times on weekdays and weekends, only on weekdays, only on weekends. You can prevent them from visiting certain websites. You can prevent them from using certain applications. And you can allow them to access those applications with admin privileges. So basically, they can't get on a certain application without your permission. So really like that. Very simple, easy to use. Security and privacy coming up there. It's going to show all of the histories that are being collected, locking behavior, and firewall. They have made it extremely easy to go and set up your firewall here. So really, really like that. Sound is another one, and this is a big one for if you've only got the standard speakers hooked up to your computer. This isn't a big deal, but if you have multiple devices, this thing is awesome for going and setting up input, output, all that kind of stuff. In my case, right now I just have the headphones hooked up to the computer, but I also have a regular microphone. So if I've got a mic and the headphone setup, well, the headphones, they've got a mic in them as well. So going and picking and choosing on the mics, and then as far as where do I want the audio, going the output for the audio, just the settings here, this makes it very, very easy to go and configure just the way that you want. There are quite a few homebrewed applications that are included in Elementary OS. Now, not a huge number of them, but some of them are forks of other applications. The mail application called Pantheon Mail. It is a fork of Geary, and at least in my opinion, it is improved over Geary. The photo manager, it is a fork of Shotwell, and as far as I'm concerned, there are improvements. Now, in the case of those two applications, previously the company Yorba had been developing both the Geary application and Shotwell, and Yorba is no longer around, so Elementary basically picked up the development of those applications for the Elementary desktop and made sure that the application continued in the direction that they wanted, as opposed to the direction that Yorba had wanted to go. So, been using those, very nice. And a lot of other default applications. The file manager, and I was talking a little bit about this earlier. Let me drag it over here. It originally started as the or developed from the old Marlin file manager and GTK file manager, and while it does not have the number of features that that Nautilus has, there's I think for most people, you're going to have all the features that you want. One thing that it is an improvement over Nautilus is the handling of bookmarks. And for those of you that are using whether it's GNOME Shell, Ubuntu Unity, anything where it's using the Nautilus file manager, you know that the default bookmarks that are included, you can't get rid of them. Now you can change the location. You can go in and manually play around with the text file, so you can change where those files are, those folders are located at, but you cannot delete those particular bookmarks. You can do that here, and you can add all kinds of bookmarks. You can add, you can add tons of bookmarks if you want. Like here, well, here I got my this elementary folder open. I can just go right click it, bookmark it, boom, it's right there. Want to move it around, I can do that. I can put it wherever I want it. Just like I said, all kinds of stuff that you can do with the bookmarks that for whatever reason Nautilus will not let you go and play around with those bookmarks the way that I want it. Want to get rid of the bookmark, just remove it. You want to rename it, you can do that. File searching and for the back when I had tested out Elementary, a couple years ago, and I think it was back on the Freya version. Say, hey, you can't file search. There's no way to search. Where do you search at? Well, it's just a keyboard shortcut, Control F, and you can search here. Yeah, visually, unless you know the keyboard shortcut, you can't do it. But learning that shortcut, yeah, you can search here. Another thing that I added myself is all the way down here at the bottom of the menu. You see open folder as root. Yeah, I know the conventional advice, do not open graphical applications as root. Yeah, I know, heard it a million times, but there's still times where I want to do it, and it's actually really easy to go and add that to the system. And like I said, I'll have instructions on how to do that on the blog post that goes along with this video. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out. Now, while we're talking applications, let me open up their App Center. And their App Center is another thing that I'm really liking here. Let me find it. There we go. One-stop shopping, in that you can go, and from here you can go and find anything that's in the repositories. You can go and pull it up and install it. Scroll through them all. There are a fair number of applications here that are made specifically for Elementary. Some of them are paid for, some are freebies. Now the paid for ones, let me see if I can find one so we can just look at it. Like here, the bookmark manager. You see where it's got the $1. That's just like a suggested donation, if you want to say it. You can go in there and you can change it to whatever you want. Now, personally, kind of here's my philosophy on that. If you want to go and see if the app is going to work for you, then go ahead and put in $0 and try it out. But if you're going to continue using it, please, for the love of God, donate to these projects so that they can fund the development. Okay, and the same thing with downloading Elementary. You can download Elementary for free, but you can also go and donate some to the project. If you're just trying it out, hey, that's fine. Download it for free then. But for God's sakes, help with paying for the development of these projects. There's no big, huge corporation that are behind most of these open source projects. In a lot of cases, like a lot of these applications, it's one guy or one person. So donate to them if you're going to go and download it and use it. I do recognize that you may be in a financial situation where you can't afford a whole lot, but I mean, most of these apps, you're looking at $1. I mean, come on, it's not much. But also, while you're in the App Center, you can also go here and do updates, and you can do an update all, and it'll update everything on your system. And very nice one-stop shopping for not only adding applications but also updating your system. And a lot of these applications really are nice. I mean, they've got, and I pinned some of them over here just so that I could pull them up real quick. They got a real nice system monitor. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of features here, but it's showing you all the basic stuff that you need, and you can sort it by the amount of memory being used, that sort of thing. Um, and a couple that I found that I think would really be nice for at least when I'm doing web development. One is this color picker, and then also this one doing called swatches. So you can go and let's pick a color from somewhere out here. We'll go towards this purplish blue right here. It picked that color there. I can go and copy and paste that into the swatches, and it's going to give me all kinds of variants that are close to that particular color as well, and give me their hex code. And of course, I've got it set up for hex, but you could go to RGB, QT, RGBA, all that kind of stuff. Hex is what I typically use, or most commonly use when I'm doing websites. But just like I said, some of these applications really, really nice. And like I said, if you're going to use them, please donate some to the projects. So let's talk a little bit about stuff that needs some more work, or didn't work quite the way that I wanted to. Stuff where I had to do a little extra work to get it working the way that I wanted to. However you want to say it. Let's start with the calendar. Now, you can go and sync Google calendars, and you can add like CalDAV calendars as well. Problem is that if you go and sync Google Calendar, it's only going to sync the primary calendar for that particular account. If you have multiple accounts or multiple calendars on that account, like I do, it won't sync those other ones. And as you can see, I've got multiple calendars based on different things, just for organization purposes. Um, and also it allows me to send that particular category of stuff to a certain user, that sort of thing. And it's like I said, the main reason is organization. So like, in my case, um, I've got one for a to-do list. I've got my work schedule. I've got family events. Then the main one for the calendar, or main one for that account, and then the kids' school calendar. So, like I said, it's all color coded on it, and you can't go and sync those other accounts. Now, workaround is if you go and add evolution, and then add that Gmail account to evolution, it automatically goes and syncs it with this calendar as well. You never have to open evolution again. You may be able to delete evolution. I don't know. I didn't try that, but I haven't opened evolution ever since then. And boom, here you go. Now you may be asking, why don't you use a different calendar application? Well, I like the calendar application itself. It allows you to continuously scroll through the months, which I really like that feature. Adding events, real easy to do. It's just that initial setup of the syncing. I wasn't able to do it, but like I said, the workaround with evolution, it works out great. I really like them to see them add some syncing features, so that you can sync those multiple accounts. But for the time being, this works. If you go to where it's got online accounts, I was expecting to see something like on Gnome Shell where it lists, you know, Google account, Yahoo account, MSN account. But what it lists here, um, that's not much in the way of online account syncing. So um, that's something I would like to see them moving to, something more like what you have with in GNOME Shell. Now, the only application that I couldn't get to work correctly or let me back up. The only one on my desktop that would not work correctly was the video camera, or the video camera app. It's just called Camera, and it just would not do anything with my. I've got a Logitech C920. Just would not connect with that camera. The application would initially open up and then it freeze and nothing. Now the thing is that it just must be have to do with that particular webcam, because looking online at the on GitHub, other people with that same webcam have reported the same problem. I also have this have Elementary on my laptop, and the laptop webcam, it works perfectly with that application. So it's just an incompatibility issue with this particular Logitech webcam. Hopefully in the next iteration of Elementary OS, that issue will be fixed. Now there were a few things that popped up because of the age of some of the applications that are in the Ubuntu 16.04 code base, which is what Elementary Loki is based on. It's based on Ubuntu 16.04. So probably the biggest issue that I ran into because of that was printing. The HP printer that I have, it's the OfficeJet Pro 8720, just came out a couple of years ago. So the version of HP Lip, which is the printer drivers that HP puts out for its printers for Linux, the version that came with Ubuntu 16.04 was not compatible. So now luckily you can go to the HP's got a website. You can go there, download the latest HP Lip and install that. It took me a while to get it done though, because of the dependencies. I would go and I would find a missing dependency and then find out, oh, you can't install that dependency because it conflicts with this. So I get rid of the thing that conflicts with it. Well, now it conflicts with something else, and so it was just a long drawn out process to get the dependencies correct so that I can install that. I probably played around with that for 2 hours. Finally I got it, and once the new version of HP Lip was installed, everything went down without a hitch. Printing, the scanning, all that. And in fact, I did find out, because Elementary uses, what's the name of it? The Xane image scanning program. I did not, if I use Simple Scan with my printer scanner combo, it will only allow me to scan at 300 dots per inch. But my printer, the scanner on the printer, it is capable of up to 1200 dots per inch. Xane will allow me to scan at that resolution, which I had a bunch of scanning to do earlier in the week. I was scanning some old photos, and you can see a massive difference in the scanning between 300 and 1200 DPI. So very happy that I was able to do that with the scanning app. So anyway, so stuff popped up because of the age of the code base that's in Ubuntu 16.04. I've added several PPAs so that I could update certain apps, stuff that I use where I knew that there's a newer version available, and the newer version had, it ran significantly better, or there were significant improvements. So there were those. The other thing I was kind of looking at is the kernel that is available in Elementary. It is, and I marked it down on my notes here. So the kernel version is 4.13.0-38. Now the end of life for the 4.13 series was 4.13.16, and that was in November of 2017, and here we are in April of 2018, and we're using, what are we're like 5 months past end of life. Now, granted, I would bet that the Ubuntu developers, that they are patching the kernel, keeping up with the security updates, that sort of thing. But why why wouldn't you have gone and upgraded to 4.14, which is an LTS kernel? Just throwing it out there. But anyway, like I said, several PPAs are needed. We're running an older kernel, and yeah, the kernel's not bad. And as long as they are patching it for the security stuff, not a big deal. But we're working with an older code base, so which is why, and kind of coming to my final point on the whole elementary thing, is that I am very much looking forward to the new elementary OS that will be coming out. Don't know when, hopefully soon, based on the Ubuntu 18.04 code base. So I believe the code name is Juno for this one. Working with the 18.04 code base, so everything will be much newer. Once again, they're going with basing it off of an LTS, which I think is a good strategy from the standpoint that they don't have to keep modifying their code to work with the newer stuff. On the flip side, you end up, here we are almost 2 years later after Ubuntu 16.04 came out, and I'm having to add a lot of PPAs so I can stay updated on applications. So that kind of thing makes you wonder if it would be good for Ubuntu to move to more of a rolling release model, as opposed to what we have now, where you have these every 6-month releases with 2-year intervals between LTSs. But anyway, all in all, really liking the elementary OS. Bunch of stuff that I added, some changes that I made. I will go, and all the details on that will be in the blog post. I don't know that I will get that up today. As soon as it goes up, though, I will have a link in the video description. And for those of you that follow me over on Google Plus, I will post a link when that blog post gets up, because like I said, I don't think I'll get it done today. Might be tomorrow, might be over the weekend. Just depends on how my time goes. But like I said, really enjoying the video, really enjoying elementary OS. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Definitely go and check out my other videos. If you are not a subscriber, please subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you. If you've got any questions, comments, that kind of stuff, leave it down below. I'll get to it as soon as possible. And as always, see you on the next video.